It's Monday. That can only mean one thing. It's Scotty and Motty. We're not sponsored by that coffee brand.
Yeah,
if you do want to get in touch. Before we kick off with the show, if you want to support us, don't cost you anything, but can you press subscribe, like to help us get more of those numbers. As I said, I'm Scotty. That's Motty. I'm uncharacteristically optimistic.
I don't like it when you're being positive.
Because I'm usually wrong when I am.
Yeah, well, you're usually quite cynical, quite jaded, quite pessimistic, quite miserable, quite dour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what about when I'm on a bad day?
Depressing. You're that guy. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone seems to be, and you as well, like a little bit positive because we've made some signings that make sense. They're not necessarily the greatest big shiny signings like we have done in the past, but the signings that United need and the players that are highly rated. We've got a backroom staff in that sort of makes sense again. It's coaches and ex-players and director of footballs that have done well, if I can just pluralise all that. And yeah, it just feels like there's a bit of optimism and a reason to be hopeful, would you say? Yeah,
I think so. I think every season before this, we were going into, was a lot of bit of blind faith that was covered by the sort of marquee signings. Oh, we've got Casemiro, everything will be all right. Oh, Di Maria's coming, everything will be fine. We've got Pogba, problem solved. And that was never the case because they were the wrong signings. There was no sort of thought process behind them. And you made the point there about Zirkzee and Yoro not being the biggest of names, but they make sense with where this Manchester United squad is and where we're going to go in the future. And I say where we're going to go because I'm positive that INEOS seem to have more of a clue of direction. They seem to have a GPS signal rather than an A to Z in Korean like the Glazers are.
Yeah, we'll get into the signings in a minute. I just want to ask you a little bit about INEOS because I think we're both sceptical. I think you were a little bit more sceptical than I was when they first looked like they were going to be successful in terms of, winning the bid or whatever you want to say about part ownership. So far, what have you made of their moves? Because we've seen like easy ones. We've spoken about this ever since they took over, like opening up a dialogue with the fans, Jim Ratcliffe doing interviews, attending the Munich Memorial, just little things that the Glazers didn't do. Being in the stands every week, being at Carrington, having that sort of presence. Then you've seen other moves they've done. Bringing in a director of football, going after Omar Barada and getting him. What have you made of the sort of the behind the scenes moves they've made so far?
Well, I think I wanted Ratcliffe ahead of was it Qatar?
No, but we both. I mean, we both said we'd rather have Ratcliffe. Neither of us wanted to be sports washed, and there was a lot of other issues around the Sheikh Jassim bid. But I think I remember sort of us chatting and you saying, look, I'm not just saying they're our saviours. We'll have to wait and see what they do. Yeah. Now we're at a point where we can't say, oh, here's what they've done. We can judge them properly, but we can see what they've done initially. How do you feel about
that? Yeah, very positive because you're right. Ratcliffe there's a lot of PR spin when he first signed, letting himself available for sort of media days to say what his plans were for the club. Now, I've worked in advertising. It's all right having a great advertising brand about what you're going to do. Yeah. But the proof is if the product's a load of shit, nobody's going to continue to be interested and call you out for what it is. So, but the moves behind the scenes of Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox, like a lot of these were very sought after people. Like Newcastle didn't want to get rid of Ashworth. No. Barada was a shock to Man City when he asked to leave. Yeah. Wilcox had to pay to get out of Southampton. Yeah. So, these are best in class in their positions, and it looks like on the pitch what they're doing, I don't think they can go out and buy the Galactico version of a centre-back. I'm not even too sure who that would be on the market at the moment, but we're going to hopefully get the next best thing because that's what Ratcliffe said in one of his first interviews at Man United. It was that we can't sign Mbappe.
Sign the next.
We want to sign the next.
I like that. It does seem to. It makes sense for a multitude of reasons. One, just from a budgetary point of view, if United went out and spent 100 million quid on a defender this summer, we wouldn't have much money left for anyone else. So you won't be buying another striker. You won't be chasing after midfielders. You just have your centre back, and if you went the way of Varane, say, and got injured, then you've wasted all your money on someone who might not even be able to play all season. So there's that. Also, having a little bit of like a business-like approach. I don't mind having a semi-business-like approach to football because it is a business. And even though Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a fan of United, you do want to have this sort of thing in the back of your mind where you go, okay, let's buy a player, and if we buy this player and in 3 or 4 years he wants to move on, we still get some money for him. If you buy a 32-year-old and in 4 years he wants to move on, you ain't getting any money for him.
No.
That's it. So everything you spent on him is just dead money. So I don't mind that approach as well. And also, that whole thing of like buying the next best player, the next sort of thing, just from a fan point of view, it's quite exciting seeing these players grow, seeing these players develop in the way that hopefully they can do. So I was quite impressed with the way they've gone about things. I don't think it's like earth-shattering. I don't think bringing in Joshua Zirkzee for 40 million euros is like, wow, I can't believe we've got that deal. It's a good deal and it's a positive signing, and we had Kyle Anker on Stretford Paddock who was talking about him, and there's lots of reasons to be excited about this player, and I think that you can't look too much into the fact he didn't play for Holland because that's just Ronald Koeman's opinion and whatnot. It seems like a signing that makes sense. Leny Yoro, again, great young player, probably more exciting than Joshua Zirkzee because Real Madrid wanted him. We managed to get him. 62 million euros, up to 62 million euros for an 18-year-old is a lot of money, but it's a deal that makes sense. Again, it's not like unbelievable we've managed to get this off. It's a bit of a coup getting him from when Real Madrid wanted him, but it's a doable deal. So these are doable deals. The reason I'm so excited about him is because we're not used to seeing this approach from Manchester United. We're not used to seeing us go out and get an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old. Usually, not exclusive, but usually it's 32, 33-year-old striker who's on about 300 grand a week. Yeah? It's a player who's got really questionable injury records, again on about 200k a week. It's a player who might not even want to come to Manchester United, but we'll sign him anyway, aka Angel Di Maria. Do you know what I mean? Or it's a player who, personality-wise, might not be right for Manchester United. When I say that, I'm talking about players like, for example, Memphis Depay. Well, Memphis Depay, he's an okay player. I think he's slightly overrated, I'm not going to lie. But it didn't seem like he had the right temperament to come to a club like Manchester United and be serious about his football. Jadon Sancho, after we bought him, we hear all these stories about how he oversleeps all the time. He's not very professional, all the rest of it. These are the kind of things you should be looking at before you buy a player, not after you've bought him, not after you've spent 73 million quid on him.
Oh, we didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's like ridiculous.
Well, how come, a journalist from The Athletic knows about it, but the club who's just spent a fortune on him doesn't? So, it does seem like we're doing things that we should do. And again, it just feels a little bit right. I'm going to get into some more about this in a minute. First of all, I'm going to get into some of the chat. Mick Holohan is in the chat. Good to see you. Dave Rowbottom, Altered Shape, King Dino says, just heard that PSG are trying to get Bruno. We really need to keep him. I'll ask you about that. PSG coming in for Bruno. I mean, this is news to me. Is there any fee that you'd be all right with that happening?
It'd have to be 90 mil plus. I think so. And then maybe you got someone coming from PSG to United.
I get that.
It'd have to be that.
In that makes sense to me, but for me, there's certain players that you just ring fence.
Yeah.
No matter what they offer, and he'd be one of them. There'd be him, Mainu,
Martinez.
Yeah, shout. I don't give a fuck what you're offering. And the reason I say that is you might go, Jay, what are you on about 90 million quid? And I get your point. Manuel Ugarte is a player we want, and it looks like we're on the verge of. Say on the verge. There
seems to be a lot of dialogue between the two.
Yeah, there's a little bit of fire to that smoke in terms of him coming to Manchester United. I just feel that, for me, Bruno Fernandes is post Alex Ferguson is our most successful signing. And I think he's one of the few signings where you go, that worked out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Without the caveat.
Oh, of course. Him and Martinez are probably the two signings. And they're both, if we miss them, we know that we're missing them on the pitch.
And I have a feeling with Bruno Fernandes as well. That the player that has the energy that he has, so few injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if he was playing into like 33, 34.
He's not a player that relies on his pace as much as others. And he can drop deep. You've seen him play that sort of like sweeper role in the past.
Scholes, he did it a bit. He moved from attacking midfielders to a quarterback. I could see Bruno Fernandes doing that. I just think United could be looking at a player that you've got another 3 or 4 years worth out of. And it's like, and I know it's INEOS and it's different, but I'm always wary of like us selling anyone we don't want to sell because there's no guarantee we'll reinvest that money well. Let's say, for example, we sold Bruno for 90 million a guy, which would be a great bit of business, really. Your guy comes in, I expect him to do well. He might do, he might not. But there's every chance that United could go out and we could spend that 90 million on, I don't know, another sort of midfielder or another attacking midfielder, and it doesn't quite work out.
There's a debate though, isn't there? With obviously we've made 2 signings, and we're in the market for at least one more centre back. It looks like either De Ligt or Bramthwaite.
Yes,
so that's possibly going to come. But United are going to have to sell players to generate money to sort of fund these.
I love the fact you said I've heard De Ligt and Bramthwaite.
I've heard. I didn't say I've heard.
Yeah, you did
I? I have heard.
I've heard it's the Bradford. I don't know if that's common knowledge, but I've heard that we could be.
Well, I don't know if it's common. I've heard that's not wrong. Have you not heard that?
I think everyone on the planet has heard that we're in for Bradford and Delete. That's my point. But go on, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on, I just like the way you heard it.
You wait until you're on live on Stretford Paddock next. I'm coming down to Old Trafford. What have you heard? What have you heard? Yeah, what have you heard in the paper?
I've heard that United could be in for Joshua Zirkzee.
Yeah, right.
I've not got it confirmed, but I've heard that. Go on.
I've missed you. When you going to America?
I better be careful because you're doing a lot of lives on Stretford Paddock.
Yeah.
You'll be getting the channel shut down in spite.
No, I'll keep the channel up. I'll just be getting you cancelled.
All right, that's fair enough.
Where was he anyway? Yeah, so we'll have to
you've heard your exclusive here. Breaking news, ITK Scotty has heard that we're in for Delict and Bramford.
They don't call me long sights Ornstein for nothing.
They don't call you for starters, but you're right.
Yeah, so we're after the defenders. We're going to have to make some money, aren't we, to sort of fund the signings we've made or the signings we're going to make. So is there going to be a scenario, and I'm just being a little bit point out there, where we can't raise enough capital with the selling McTominay, Maguire, if we can't get rid of them players, and we need to make a big sale to get other players in.
I get your point. Where we
because it's only Bruno really and Rashford who United could sell. That would be a big sale in terms of like one sale could probably do the whole transfer window.
Yeah, I think we'd have to box clever, and we're going to have to sell, I think, 2 or 3 players at least. Because so far we sold Mason Greenwood and Willie Kambwala, I think, for a sort of combined fee of around 35 million.
And 20% of the Greenwood money is going to Getafe in what's one of the most ludicrous.
What, really?
Have you not read that?
How can they get money on a player they've never owned?
Apparently, well, I've not heard this, but I've read it on Twitter. Yeah. Apparently, Arnold and Murta had said to Getafe, if you take him, we'll give you 20% on any sale.
That's just...
I'm not
for a loanee? Yeah. For a loan move? That's ludicrous.
So it looks like they could get
Jesus Christ. So you've got some money in for Greenwood and Kambwala. Not much for Kambwala, and after what you've just told me, not much for Greenwood either, but a little bit. You look at maybe there's talk of McTominay going to, is it Fenerbahce, you're interested in him?
Yeah.
And Fulham as well, maybe that happens. Maguire, it's all got a bit cold there. Lindelof, I think there was some links as well. I think I might be getting it mixed up, but I think he's been linked with a move to Turkey as well. Casemiro's one, if he goes to Saudi, you could potentially get... There's talk of it being around 50 million quid, which I know that sounds a little bit excessive.
Is that because of the league, you think?
I think so. I'm not so sure that happens, but we'll have to wait and see. I feel like it's going to have to be... Wan-Bissaka's another one who's been linked with a move away, although I don't want to see him go anywhere. I feel like it's got to be 2 or 3 sales if that is what United need to do, and I think you're right, I think we do. I don't see us selling a big player. And also, I think this whole Rashford to PSG thing is nonsense. However, there could be something in Sancho to PSG.
I could see that.
Yeah, we had that today in my news on Paddock, and it seems that they're interested in Jadon Sancho. There's the journalist who's reported it, I think it's Santi Anua, has reported that they've opened talks, they're interested in him. It feels like a very sort of PSG signing.
Yes.
Sancho there. And obviously he had that worldie, didn't he, against them in the semi-final of the Champions League, the first leg. So that might be sort of fresh in their memory. And he probably, without being too disparaging about the French league, he could probably do a job there. I don't care how many sort of, statements or reports we have of him and Ten Hag making up. I still feel there's a bit of needle there. That. I think Ten Hag are probably looking at Jadon Sancho and thinking, you took the piss. And I think Jadon Sancho's probably looking at Ten Hag thinking, I just want to get out of here. And I think in the time being, the sort of this mutually beneficial sort of truce.
Biting the tongue until
you can get Jadon Sancho out the door. Maybe if you can get 30, 40 million for Jadon Sancho, maybe that helps fund a Branthwaite or a Delite. If you had a preference, have you got a preference over one of them two?
I'm not seeing much of Branthwaite. We've been linked with Delite since he went to Juventus, haven't we? He seems to have always been coming to United. We might benefit that Bayern Munich, like Manchester United, Bayern Munich need to sell players, whereas I don't think Everton do because it's all... Well, they might do now with the finger collapsing.
To
be honest, there seems to be a meltdown at Goodison Park. I've always had like a respect for Everton.
You tweeted it, and I agree with you. My enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yeah, so there used to be this respect between United and Everton fans because we both hated Liverpool, but there's just a lot of them seem to have lost the marbles over this Branthwaite deal.
Ridiculous statements I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'd rather sell Branthwaite to anyone but Manchester United. Well, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't rather sell him to Liverpool. Liverpool. Stop talking rubbish.
But I'd like De Ligt out of them.
Yeah, De Ligt feels like the more doable one. I'll get in some of the comments and I'll come back to you.
Make sure you subscribe and like it if you're watching, please.
Yes. Joe James John says Bruno will retire here. I'll be happy to see that. King Dino says we could easily spend 200 million trying to replace Bruno and still be looking for his replacement in 4 years. Aaron Moore says he's a very high footballing IQ player. Need to keep hold of Bruno. Jim Mack says if we start making bad signings again, I'm available. I'm only 49 and gave up smoking 10 years ago. Santa Not says, to be fair, Jay Stradamus once heard we were signing Sancho the week we finalised the deal. I did. I did predict the Vote Vegos one though.
Did you?
Yeah, via a meme, the Moneyball meme. We can replace Cristiano Ronaldo's goals with Vote Vegos. Right. And that was 6 months before we signed him. Also, Altered Shape says Getafe didn't write his original contract or own any part of Greenwood. I don't know what's going on there. Someone else is saying Aaron Moore says yes, but he's put himself back on the market at Getafe. I think that's why there was some sort of deal there. It kind of makes sense to me that it was so ludicrous if it went on under Arnold and Murtagh. Marcus says, our fans won't ever realise Bruno and Rashford ain't title-winning players. I think you could win a title with both of those players. I really do. Marcus also says, I'd sell Rashford and Bruno while we can for a lot. I wouldn't do that. And I don't know. This whole thing about... There's a big sort of clamour to sell Marcus Rashford and you get big money for Marcus Rashford and you say, who's coming in for him? Who's this? Where's this bid for Marcus Rashford? Because I keep hearing this.
The thing is, though, it came out before that Osimhen was supposed to be going to PSG, but talks have fell through there because PSG won't pay his buyout fee, and they won't offer a swap deal for the player that Napoli want as a part exchange. So it doesn't look like he's going. So there may be a space, like you're saying with Sancho, that they might want Rashford. Rashford's a bigger name than Sancho on the continent, regardless of how top-to-turvy his career could be. And my take on Marcus Rashford is if United don't sell him this season, I don't think they will, and he doesn't have a great season next year, his value will drop off even more. So they make more money this year.
I agree with that, but I don't believe the Rashford's PSG thing. I just think that first started when Thomas Tuchel was there and he was a big fan of Marcus Rashford, and there was this talk. Marcus Rashford scored a couple of goals against PSG and he'd not signed a deal at United, and there was this talk that PSG were in front. And I think it was true. Yeah. I think there was a genuine interest in getting Marcus to go to Paris, and I think he wasn't against the idea. I don't think he was keen, but I think he was looking at it going, okay, let's see what sort of deal I get offered at United, let's see what happens there. Obviously signed a new deal, he's on massive amounts of money at United. Mbappe's gone from Paris Saint-Germain, so people saying, well, maybe he's going to go in there. I just think it's proper cooled. I follow a lot of French journalists, and it doesn't seem like there's this interest. It feels more like it's fan-led. Like fans are looking at it going, yeah, PSG will have him, but if a club's got to spend 80, 90 million quid on a player, they need to be in for him. They need to be interested. And I don't think they are. I think they probably looked at him and gone, last season he scored 7 goals. He's on massive amount of money wage-wise. Is he that guy? Do you know what I mean? Like, is he the guy? And I don't know. I feel like if it was happening like it was a few years ago, we'd hear more about it. And yet, I'm not hearing anything about it. It feels like loads of fans are suggesting it, and loads of fans are saying they'd have it, and I understand that argument, even though I'd still keep him. But I just don't feel like we're seeing much in the way of someone from Paris Saint-Germain or someone that covers PSG who's proper reliable, who's ITK saying, yeah, they're coming in for him. Yeah. And also, the season starts soon, and we're still waiting for it. And it just feels like now you've had this Jadon Sancho one come from sort of nowhere. If they were looking at Marcus... Especially with the Ugarte deal on the table, potential, that makes sense to try and... They've gone like, we want Marcus. Look, and it might happen. It might be an 11th hour thing, or it might be like just they've managed to keep it under wraps, or the dialogue has always continued from that first sort of initial interest that PSG had with him. I'm not saying it's definitely dead. It's just, I'd be surprised, and I feel it's a little bit more fan-led. And I also feel like the whole we can sell Marcus for a lot of money thing, I think... One thing you have to remember is United fans, everything we say about a player, what we criticise a player for, and we're sceptical of a player for, other clubs will be as well. So when you're sitting there, not you personally, but anyone, and saying, Marcus is a bit erratic, Marcus doesn't like he's enjoying his football, Marcus has off-the-field issues, Marcus has had 2 bad seasons out of the last 3. Other clubs who are about to spend a lot of money will look at that and go... And we're people that are on his side. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember with David De Gea where everyone was going, Mate, he's having a few stinkers. He's dropping a lot of clangers.
Can't find
His distribution is terrible. Look at how he compares to other goalkeepers. He's in the bottom 1% when it comes to, you know, being a modern keeper in terms of his sort of possession and distribution and everything. And then I know obviously he can pick and choose. He's not just going to go to any club, but no one comes in for him for a reason. Other clubs see that. Other clubs see, well, is it worth paying him 250k a week or whatever he was on at Manchester United if there's question marks on it? And I think there's an element of that with Marcus Rashford where other clubs must be looking at it going, okay, he's got off the field stuff going on, we know the trips to Belfast and all that, we don't need to go into it. He's on a lot of money. His output is erratic. Now, if Marcus was on a free, I think there'd be people snapping him up. But if you're going to pay a lot of money to get him, if you're going to pay 80, 90 million quid, and there's a chance Marcus could go to your club and have one of his off seasons where he gives you an 8-goal return, is it worth it? I don't know.
It's a big gamble, isn't it? It could be that Marcus Rashford's PSG's like Wesley Schneider, maybe link with him every single summer.
It does.
But never materialise.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like that to me.
Be interested to see what the viewers. Would you keep or would you sell Marcus Rashford to PSG or anywhere this season? My take on this is, I think this could be Marcus Rashford's last attempt at sort of resurrecting his career. You know? He can't possibly have another bad season next year, and he can say Luke Shaw isn't playing alongside him, can have 100 million different excuses. But we've got Højlund's a year under his belt. He should be better. You got Zirkzee. He's going to be offering more goals. If Sancho stays, that could be a threat to his place.
Well, do you know what?
Wait. Ahmad's going to be there. Garnacho, Anthony for striking play, you know, like for forward players. Marcus Rashford's going to be falling on the pecking order very quickly if he doesn't score.
The Zirkzee thing should help him. If you look at the type of player that's Joshua Zirkzee.
Yeah, he's not an out-and-out striker,
no, he's not. He's someone that brings in the attackers round. We had Carl Anker on the Paddock podcast and he was talking about that and he said, look, Joshua Zirkzee is the type of striker who'll get hold of the ball deep and he'll give it to the wingers, and he's like he's not a dream.
I don't think he's a 15-goal season. Not yet anyway.
And we saw it with Wout Weghorst. Wout Weghorst more or less brought out the best in Marcus Rashford. He was happy to play it off to Marcus Rashford and hold the ball up and give it to Rashford, and Rashford banged in 30 goals a season. If you've got another striker who's almost like selfless the way that Weghorst was, and he's happy to bring you in, and you're still not doing it, then you've got issues. I agree. I think, listen, I love Marcus Rashford. I don't share some of the disdain that people have for him, but I'm not deluded. I know he has to have a good season this season, and if he doesn't, I think it'll be his last one at Manchester United. I agree with you there, because I feel like Erik ten Hag now is in a position where if Marcus doesn't perform for him, he can go, look, I've been here for 3 years. You've performed for me once out of the 3 years, and the last 2 you haven't, and it's time to move on.
Isn't there the conversation though? Like ten Hag got an extension on his contract, but it was only by 1 year. Don't forget.
It was just a deal he had, wasn't it? Like, you're right. What's triggered his extension?
Yeah. So like. How far in? So for my money, Rashford needs to like basically hit the ground running from this season, because if Ten Hag's looking over his shoulder and saying, "Well, my job might be on the line because I'm only here, you know, after winning the FA Cup final, I can't pin all my hopes that Rashford's going to have a good season." If he goes 2 months in, doesn't bag a lot of goals, he might go like, "You got to come out, lad."
Well, I think he will, and I think you've got options now, because Diallo's in that conversation on the right hand side. Garnacho can play on the left. Mason Mount, don't forget, can play as part of the front three. He's going to want to get minutes next season. And also, you could even move Bruno up there, maybe put Mount in the 10, giving you a different option. You've got Zirkzee and Højlund who could play together. A lot of people say
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to old school. So there you've got, all of a sudden, you're looking at it, you're going, you could drop Marcus Rashford and still give yourself an option. Also, let's not forget, I know Marcus played in the FA Cup final, but in the FA Cup final, we didn't even have a striker. We had a false 9 of Bruno. So you've got all these different permutations where you can have different options where Marcus, it doesn't feature, and you've still got a strong attack. Now, I personally, if I'm picking my starting 11, Marcus is in it. But you're right, I think like he's got to prove it a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot. I think if we're sat here in October and Marcus has no goals or 1 goal and 1 assist or something, I think his goose could be cooked. And I think they might even look at it and go, look, what's up? Do you want to go? Because it's not happening, and Erik ten Hag might have to make a tough decision. However, if I had to make a prediction, I don't think that'll happen. I think Marcus will sort his head out, and I think we'll see a better season from him next season. I think he's a capable player. We want to see Marcus play more.
Everybody, just by their own sort of, embarrassment from last season, should want to have a better performance. It can't get any worse. It was the worst ever Premier League season. So, on a positive note, how are you seeing this sort of line up towards the beginning of the season? Obviously, you're away to pre-season now, more about getting people fit. We might see, some decent games. But do you feel like we're heading towards building a top 4 team? Could we possibly challenge for the league next season? Is that too soon? Your Europa League?
I feel like it's too soon to go from 8th to challenging for the title. With
Leicester did it.
Yeah, but Leicester is an outlier. Everyone says Leicester. Like, Leicester did. But Leicester, if you look at everything Leicester did, you've not seen it before or since. I think you have to go back to Nottingham Forest under Clough to see that.
So it's happened before?
To that level. 50 years ago, yeah. 45 years ago. To see that level of sort of
so it's happened
surprise. Twice in...
And they were lesser teams.
50 years. And also, I think even now, look at the strength of Manchester City compared to 2016. Look at the strength of some of the other teams. I still feel like I'd be very surprised if Manchester United win the league.
There's City. De Bruyne is rumoured today that he might be leaving to Saudi Arabia, and they're looking at getting...
Didn't Romano say that's nonsense?
Is that nonsense?
I think he did.
I mean, De Bruyne is getting older anyway, isn't it?
But don't forget, the thing with De Bruyne is, right, and he's been one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, but City won a title without him. Do you know when he missed that entire season? And they still got... He missed 3/4 of the season. And they still got 99 points, whatever it was. I'd love to go, De Bruyne's going, that's the end of that. But I don't think it is, unfortunately. I think the only way... Yeah, well, exactly. He's still here next season.
But it could have the Liverpool effect. Remember when Klopp announced his retirement before they actually fell off a cliff? They reckon that Guardiola's going to make an announcement around Christmas time. That could see them dropping. Stop! But I'm the cynical one. Chelsea.
All right,
Chelsea got a new manager. Right.
Okay.
Arsenal will do nothing as they usually do. Spurs won't. Right. Liverpool, new manager.
Right.
So United could win the league. They could do. Leicester have made a bigger swing around. Nottingham Forest
have. Leicester doing it because that's everyone says Leicester did it, and I've been guilty of it myself, saying Leicester did it. You're right, Leicester did. I just don't see.
Don't dream.
I think United could win the league under Erik tonight. I just don't think it'll be next season.
So what are you seeing next season?
I think United could get 4th.
That's it.
Well, where do you see us finishing?
I think we could finish top 2.
Really?
Generally, I think we've got more signings coming in.
Right.
And I think we'll be in a better place because we'll have people coming back from injuries.
Yeah.
The sheer embarrassment from the finishing 8th last year.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
I think Europa League winners definitely go far in the FA Cup.
So not only are we going to finish in the top 2, we're also winning the Europa League. Yeah. So we're playing 60 games next season and we're still finishing in the top 2.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah. And the Charity Shield.
And the Charity Shield. And also going far in the FA Cup. I think, genuinely, right, United will win a trophy in top 4.
Right, top 4. This is what happens to me. Regular viewers of the show is that I always start the season off really optimistic.
Yeah.
This won't be the face that I have come October if we're lying in 8th.
Yeah, right. I mean, it could happen. United could win the league, like Scotty said, the Leicester factor. I'll be honest with you. I don't think City and Arsenal are dropping out of that top 2. Arsenal have got quite a young side. They look pretty solid. They look like they got their act together under Arteta. The system he's got there works. I don't see them faltering to the extent that they fall off that much. City, yes, Pep could announce halfway through the season that he's leaving and they could have a Liverpool-style meltdown, but I think Liverpool have got a much better team than City have got a much better team than Liverpool had, and I think they've got too many players who are just top tier. Like, I look at that team, unfortunately, I look at the likes of Ireland, I look at the likes of Phil Foden, I look at the likes of Akanji and some of their defenders who just do what they need to do. And I'm sorry, and I know I bore everyone to death with this, and it pains me to say it, but I just think Rodri is genuinely world class, and I don't see a team featuring him not finishing in the top 2, unfortunately. So I just feel that top 2 is settled with them two. I feel like there's the reason I think top 4 is I feel Spurs flattered to deceive last season. I'm sorry, everyone loves Ange Postecoglou, right? And he had a great start, and I think what he did was he did the right thing. He had a great start, James Maddison scoring goals, Ange comes in, everyone loves him because he's a completely different personality to the likes of Antonio Conte and every other manager. Calls journalists mate, he's dead down to earth, he's the kind of guy you want to go for a beer with. And he sort of rises a wave, and then at the end of it, Spurs don't make top 4. And it's like, okay. And I know we lost Kane. I know.
Madison injury as well here.
But Madison gets injured. This is what I mean. People started acting like James Madison did something different than he's not done every year he's ever played football.
His first season at Spurs, what I'm saying is they were playing that great football in a decent position, and then he got injured.
But that's what I mean. But
United are allowed to call about injuries, but Spurs aren't.
What do you mean?
So like when United fall off because of bad injuries, right? People that's a reasonable excuse, but we're not saying that Madison getting injured is not a decent excuse for Spurs falling off. And what I'm saying, if he's fit next year,
but he's never fit. He does this every year. Like James Madison, every year misses a third of the season for injury. So if you think he's going to stay fit next season and that's going to change, great. But I don't think it will. Yeah. That's my point. I can definitely see Spurs finishing outside the top 4 next season, and I could see United challenging for that top 4. Chelsea. Is there any evidence that Chelsea are going to get back into get their act together?
There's Villa as well.
The guy they got from Leicester, whose name escapes me, has he got the pedigree to get them into the top 4? Villa are probably your best ones under Unai Emery because they're doing bits in the transfer window and they're finishing top 4. Liverpool, you can never fully count them out, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts. But I don't think it's that sort of secure for any of those teams. I think the top 2, but the rest, I think United should be well in that mix. And I think the one advantage we've got as well over some of those teams is now we have this bit of optimism. We have this manager who's going into his 3rd season. You have some signings that make sense. You have players who have been at the club a little while and hopefully can move us forward. And plus, you've got 1 or 2 who I think next season will be better than last season. So Rasmus Højlund, for example, Kobbie Mainoo, for example. Even dare I say, someone like Alejandro Garnacho could kick on a little bit.
Well, if you look at the three, this will be the 3rd season of Ten Hag. His first season, he had all the debacle around Ronaldo to deal with. Last season, he had all the debacle regarding Glazers and INEOS takeover. So you're hoping that, at least behind the scenes, if Sancho does go, because I think that'd be another thing that could cause problems if he stays, is it within the dressing room. So maybe you might get a better, cleaner hit at the league. What are you hoping for in terms of the football? Is there anything in particular you want improving from last year this year compared to last year?
We've got to keep Martinez fit for me, for starters. I'd like to see us stop conceding loads of shots. That'd be a nice treat, considering
he didn't seem concerned about that when interviewed, though.
No.
Do you think that was just because he was under pressure, or like it's like, well, it doesn't matter, they didn't score.
I don't know with interviews with managers. I don't know how much you can take from him. I don't know how much you can take from him with Erik Ten Hag, but surely there's a bit where logic comes in. And I say this all the time. It's like when people are saying Dan Ashworth wants Gareth Southgate, and I think surely not, because there has to be a bit of logic from these people. Now, you cannot be a manager who's won trophies literally every year for the last 6 years. Watch that and think, it's fine. Like, you must know. Yeah. Just logic comes into it. I cannot believe that he watched that and think, that's bless. He might say it, but I just can't believe it, because there's got to be a little bit of logic. There's got to be a bit of logic where people like Ruud van Nistelrooy, people like Dan Ashworth, people like Jason Wilcox, where people like even Omar Barada are going, well, go on, like, come on. So I don't believe he was okay with it behind closed doors. He must have thought, this is untenable. And if it happens next season, I think it'll end up being his undoing. So I'd like to see us concede less. And also, scoring more goals as well. I know it's pretty basic, concede less and score more. But we weren't scoring enough goals, especially at Old Trafford. We should be attacking teams at Old Trafford. We should be getting at them. We should be banging in goals. And we weren't. And it was embarrassing and it was frustrating as a fan to watch. So I'm hoping we're going to see just an improvement on both ends of the pitch. And I think that, I keep going back to it, but I think Lisandro Martinez, I think he's key to both of those things. I think he gets attacks going, and I think he makes us defensively more solid. I think he's our Van Dijk, our Saliba, our Rodri. Every player, every team, I've heard this about, you shouldn't be a one-man team. Every team, top team, has one player.
It's not one-man team, it's a rock. I think. There's a difference.
Like Rodri missed 4 games last season for City, and they lost 4 of them.
Yeah.
Like, those were the only 4 games I think they lost was when he was suspended. Saliba, you remember a couple of seasons ago, he got injured, and they were challenging for the title, he got injured, and they fell off a cliff. Van Dijk, like, Liverpool, whenever he gets injured, the wheels come off.
If he's having a bad game,
And I feel like Martinez is that guy for us. And yes, in an ideal world, you wouldn't be that reliant on a player. And we shouldn't be, I know, but we are. And I just think if we can keep him fit, and hopefully he will stay fit, because I think that last season was a bit of an outlier. He don't usually miss entire seasons. Then you've got a chance, especially as well if you can get Luke Shaw back in, because even then, if Martinez was, say, out for a couple of weeks and Luke Shaw went to left centre-back, I think that works. The problem was last season you had no Luke Shaw and no Martinez, and we suffered from it. So I think that I'd like to see. What about you? What improvements would you like to see?
The midfield as well. Like, I mean, it all links to the shots conceded. I'd like to see some packing that midfield out a little bit better. Yes, Martin, and I'd like to see from Ten Hag as well. Yes, Martinez was out, but I just don't think you throw your prams out the trolley. Like, my players are injured. The football's going to suffer. I'd like Ten Hag to be able to, if it does come down to it, and we have got injuries, have an alternative. That was my big gripe with Ten Hag last season. Is like, if your players can't play the way you want them to do, wait until the summer, get some new ones in. But right now, you're going to have to make this work. You can't just say, well, my players are injured. No, you have 11 players there. You've not got lads from the local pub team.
I agree. And the weird thing is, like, the Ajax way, the Barcelona way, or whatever. No, he's not from Barcelona, but this sort of ethos of, this is how we play, and everyone knows this is how we play, and everyone in the team, in the squad, and in the club, whether you're the under-8s or you're the first team, this is the style you play. And I feel like that is what United should be gearing towards, and that's maybe what Jason Wilcox apparently has been brought into, is to sort of, so everyone is singing on the same song sheet. And that should happen in the first team as well, so that if you lose key players, the players that come in know the way you play. So if you lose Martinez, you bring in Harry Maguire, or you lose Martinez and you bring in, let's say Yoro starting, I know he's a different type of player, but whoever. Or you lose Leny and you bring in Ericsson or whatever. Whoever's coming in, then we still play the certain way we play. That makes more sense to me than just going, well, we can't play that way anymore, let's abandon it and let's play this other way, which also didn't really work because we were getting beat almost every week. So it just made no sort of sense to me whatsoever. Just before we wrap up, genuinely then, your prediction is we can challenge for the title, or are you messing about?
No, I don't think we'll challenge for the title, but I think at a push we could probably finish second. So fuck it, I'll go second, and I think that we'll win the Europa League and the Community Shield.
Okay, he's saying we're going to win the Europa League, Community Shield, Anthony's second. I say we'll win a trophy, not the Community Shield, because I don't cast that as a trophy. I'm sorry.
I do, I'm with Jose Mourinho.
No, I'm sorry. David Moyes did not win a trophy at Manchester United, and I will down that hill. That's been Scotty, I've been Motti. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. And also, just quickly before I forget.
You're putting the Patreon link in. Jay's off to America.
Yeah.
I've not been invited. Again, well, two years in the balance now.
Listen, you were invited,
hold the fort.
You checked your criminal record and you didn't get your visa. It's not my fault.
We got these the wrong way.
There's a Patreon link in the chat. Thanks for watching.